Welcome everyone to the New Nine podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, someone I've known for over 20 years. I'm with the head professional of the Kananaskis Golf and Country Club, Mr. Bob Paley. So Bob, thank you so much for joining the New Nine podcast.
Brandon, I'm honored to be here. Very, very cool to have you guys out and get to tell you a little bit about our story out here.
It's been a great morning. You know, Bob toured us with the facility and showed us some of the holes, and it was like, to just be here without your club sucks because you just want to play every hole.
Sure.
But it was awesome for you to take us out. You probably don't know this, but you're the inspiration as to why I'm so big into golf. Is that a little backstory for our audience is that my mom used to work with your wife,
Yep.
Tracy.
Yeah.
So I can remember being a 7-8-year-old and my mom would say, oh, you know, Tracy that I work with, her husband is a head professional at Kananaskis, because you've been here close to 20 years, right?
23 years, yeah.
Wow. So just having a role model so big into golf is what really wanted, you know, I really wanted to be a good golfer to get to the level that you are. So yeah, you were a huge inspiration as to why I'm involved in golf.
I'm honored.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background in golf? When did you start golfing and how did you get kind of involved in the golf industry?
Brandon, I came to this business completely backwards. So I don't have a typical golf story. I played every sport imaginable. I grew up in Red Deer, great place to grow up. I played a little bit at the country club for like a year or so. My dad had a membership there and I tried it, but then I got swept up into high school sports and junior high sports. I played volleyball, basketball, track and field, tennis, badminton, anything I could get my hands onto, I played and loved. And then played volleyball, got to U of C. I did a phys ed degree at the University of Calgary and I couldn't play volleyball. It wasn't good enough to make the volleyball team, and so I started, you know, thinking about other things and trying other things. And I found golf. I guess it would have been around the Olympics, 1988, and I fell in love, like head over heels in love with everything about the game, like just getting better, and I became just infatuated with it, and was lucky enough. I graduated in 1990 from the U of C in phys ed, and after some deliberation in 1991, I was accepted to go up to the University of Alberta and do a master's degree up there, and that's really when things kind of took off for me. My advisor, Dr. Rick Alderman, was nice enough to help me get a job. I worked at the back shop at the Derrick Golf and Winter Club. Worked there from 1991 to 95, and I grew up there. That's where, you know, I became a golfer, and I just remember going back to the back of the range, and I had this butter fade I kept trying to get rid of, and I just learned about myself. I learned about the game and learned about all facets of the golf business working there. I started in the back shop, and I was working with 12 and 13-year-olds as a 24-year-old grad student, and I couldn't have, it's still one of my most favorite jobs ever. So I fell at it and came at it, like I say, a little bit differently, and then just kind of worked my way up to, worked in the shop about 2 or 3 months into my time there in 1991, and fell in love with the members and just the whole, just being around a golf course. You know, there's just people that you know that are there that you share something in common with, and I loved it. It's still like a second home to me. I love the Derrick Golf and Winter Club, and I love the business.
Going back to your schooling, I read that you had a master's in sports psychology.
Right.
Tell me, how did you get into sports psychology? What made you want to take your master's in that?
So I went into university at Calgary. I was going to be a phys ed teacher. I had an incredible mentor, Hugh McPherson, as coach, still he's like my other dad, and I wanted to be him. So I wanted to be a phys ed and social teacher, and did my phys ed degree, and I was in education in the fall of 1990, and it just was not for me. The classes just wasn't inspired. It didn't feel right. And so my father was a psychologist, his PhD in psychology, and I've always been fascinated about why people do what they do. And no matter what it is, what's the motivation behind what it is that we're doing, and so that's something that always attracted me. And I was sitting on the back of a mower, working 1 or 2 jobs in the summer, working at CFB Calgary, and I was like, I love sports, I love psychology, why don't I marry them together? And so I went to one of my profs at U of C, and Mike Lashik, and Mike helped put me in touch with Rick Alderman and John Hogg, two PhD doctors at the University of Alberta. I went up and met with them, and was lucky enough to get a spot at U of A, and fell in love with it. And from basically 1991 to 1994, I was in Edmonton doing my master's degree and learning about sports psychology, and it was brand new. Like, it's such a new thing, and it felt like golf was a really cool thing to apply it to. And so that was my whole, I was gonna teach in golf.
Golf is such a mental game that I would say it's more than 50%. You can learn a lot of fundamentals, but if you got a couple screw looses up top, your round could go from 0 to 100
For sure.
pretty quick. Just being on the golf course, what are some common mistakes that you see with general mindset golfing, and how could you maybe correct those to have some positive thoughts?
There's so many things, but I would say probably the number one is just self-talk. It's the things that we say to ourselves. You get somebody that'll come out here, they'll stand on the first tee of Mount Lorette, and it's not the most friendly first tee. It's got water on the left, 2 ponds, a creek along the right. And so you get people there and they're like, don't hit in the water, don't hit it into the water, don't. And so they might as well, all they're thinking about is the water. They're not telling themselves what to do, they're telling themselves what they don't want to do. And I think that's a pretty cool microcosm of what life is. A lot of us, sometimes you catch yourself thinking about things that you shouldn't be thinking about, and that's where your energy goes to. And I think from a standpoint of golf and performance and just human psychology and being a person, focus on those things that you want to do. Tell yourself those things that you want to accomplish. And it's amazing when you throw it to the universe, what comes back to you, and golf's exactly the same thing. So that would be one. And I think, certainly visualization, relaxation, you make a triple or a quad bogey as a decent player, and you just shot. One of two things happens. You just sort of give up and say, doesn't matter now, and you relax, and you just, you have that big score, and all of a sudden you're par, birdie, par, you do really well after, once you've just allowed yourself to perform and gotten out of yourself, gotten out of the way of yourself. Or the people just get so wound up that, they'll either come off the course or the rest of their round is completely trashed, and they've wasted an opportunity to hang out with some cool people, for one, and it's all because they got too wound up. So there's so many things: visualization, relaxation, self-talk, pre-shot routines, breathing. Like, there's just so many things that come in from a psychological standpoint that impact us on the golf course and in life.
Right. I'm interested a little bit about your playing career. When did you go from being like kind of just a weekend warrior playing with your buddies to like, I'm pretty good at this, and I think I want to take a run at being a pro?
Yeah, I started going for my card, I think it was 1992, and I didn't know if I necessarily had the game. In fact, it's ironic because it's sort of a do as I say, not as I do, and so I was learning about all these wonderful things, and awareness is half of it. So I'd get out of the course and I'd blow up on a couple of holes, and I'd know, and I'd say to myself, don't get worked up about it. But then by thinking and don't get worked up, I get worked up. So I had to work on my own. I was my own first kind of guinea pig. And so I got to practice on myself first before I was able to, really go out and do things. But, 1992, 1993, I again kept working on my game, trying to play with better players at the club and in and around other guys I met trying to go for their card. But I didn't get my card until my third year of going for it. So I was not, and I still don't consider myself to be a fantastic golfer. I love the game. But there's so many other things that I'm in this business for. But I would say it's probably when I was in my first or second year of university, I knew, like you had said, I wanted to be around this. The volleyball community, I'd coached in volleyball and I loved every minute of it, but it didn't feel like home. Golf's always felt like home to me, and it always will, and I'm just so blessed to be a part of this community and family. That's
awesome. And mentioning family, you have some family involved in the course.
Yeah.
Is Tracy still involved in the course?
She sure is. So my wife Tracy was a dental assistant for over 25 years, and we've got two fantastic boys, Matt and Sam, who have grown up now. They're 22 and 20 years now, and she was looking for a new challenge. She was working like 1 day a week kind of thing, but was a full-time mom and one of the best moms in the world. And she was looking for a new challenge. And so when we came back after the flood, she wanted to be a part of our team and family. So she did that. She's our manager of reservations and events, and she's nailing it. She is absolutely knocking it out of the park with a Oddly enough, another Triple N, Nature Nurture 9, is a ladies program that she's got, that she runs. We ran it last year. We couldn't, of course, because of COVID, run it this year. But just where ladies get together and they'll get together to do yoga, sort of a whole life. They'll talk about foods and then we'll talk about golf and relaxation. There's a fashion show. It's a full day, full on, like from 9 in the morning until like 9 or 10 at night kind of thing. And it was hugely successful. She runs a couples night, ladies night. And so she's been awesome. And both of our boys as well have been a part of this. 2018, 2019, they were part of it. Our youngest Sam's still here with us, and he's in the shop, and Maddie's gone on to work at the Downtown Glencoe Club. So, but it's a family affair, and it's like that for for some of our other managers, and really just it's a family affair regardless. Like we really truly do treat our team and feel like our team is family, and that's just a natural extension of who we are.
Well, not only your team, but your guests feel like family. I've come here for the last 20 years, and every time I come in here, I look forward to it, because as soon as you're ready to drop your clubs off, there's someone, a friendly face that's ready to just give you such a good start to your day.
Right.
So you guys really do treat your guests like family, that there's no reason to not come back here. And I think people that do play here want to come back again and again and again. So you guys do a tremendous job of treating people like human, and there's no sense of elitists out here, or golf, can be an intimidating sport, but you really open the doors for beginners and the high-level players. So you guys do such a fantastic job running this facility. It's something you should definitely really be proud of.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much. We obviously there's a ton of beauty in this area, but we believe that our team and our family are the reason, as you say, why people come back. It's, there's just so many things in our lives. We're all told to do more with less, and there's so many pressures that everybody has, and it's just neat and nice to get away from that, and it's an honor for us, and that's what we talk about with our family all the time. People have limited time, certainly limited resources now, and they're still coming to spend time with us, and we're just so grateful and thankful for that. It's pretty cool.
I'm going to give this conversation kind of a 180. We've talked about some good. I want to talk about some bad.
Of course.
In 2013, we witnessed one of the worst natural disasters to come through here. It was, national news that everyone knew about the floods that had hit the golf course.
Sure.
Can you tell us about your experience with the floods, how it happened, and maybe the recovery process of getting the course back to normal? Yeah,
it was devastating. It was, it was a really tough time for me personally. My father had passed away the week before, and I was actually at his funeral when we were staying at my mom's house. And that morning at 5:15, I got a phone call from our general manager, and he had said, man, when it rains, it pours, literally, figuratively. It's funny now. But he had said, we had some issues out here, and he says, I don't want you to say anything right now. We don't know where it's at, but we could be closed for 5 or 6 weeks. And I bug him about it all the time, because he was off by about 5 years, because we were shut down for the total of 5 years. Brandon, it was terrible. And, really for 2 years, I'd say 2013, 2014, there's a funk in this valley. Like, it was the other businesses that were still around, the hotel had been open, Boundary Ranch, like everybody's business levels were down because the courses, weren't open. There wasn't that summer draw. Of course, camping's still a draw, and people will come out to horseback ride. But when Peter Lougheed had developed this place, that was there was a winter draw, there was a summer draw, so Nakiska ski area, the golf courses, and it brought people into the valley. And when you take one cog out of that wheel, it throws everything out of balance. So it was really a sad time for that. It was a super sad time. June 20th when the flood happened. It was a Thursday. I remember it like it was yesterday. The roads were washed out, so some of our team was trapped up top at our residence in Manor 88, near where the Pomeroy is now. And we have got some team members that are down here, and with the roads washed out, we couldn't really get everybody together. And so once the Army had come in and they had built up the bridges that were washed out and rebuilt the roads, we got everybody together on Saturday, the 22nd, I guess it would have been, in our tournament center. And we had 150 family members who had, as I mentioned to you earlier, some had been with us for 6 weeks, and some, had been with us for 25 years. And and we had to say, like, we're closed. We don't know whether we're ever coming back. We don't know. We certainly know that for the balance of this season, with the devastation we had, we were done. And man, there were a lot of tears. I still get super emotional just even thinking about that time. But it was also, flip side of that is that there was way, way more silver linings to it. And I mean, we could spend 5 hours just talking about all those silver linings, but each and every one of those team members, we certainly tried to find them a home, find out where do you want to go, what do you want to do. And we're like a dating service a little bit, because there was businesses that were reaching out to us, looking for good people, knew we had good people and that we were in trouble, and we had people, and just marrying them up and helping them find a home, just even short term, was really cool. So all that took place. Our general manager, Darren Robinson, was working hard on just where do we go from here. So he brought Gary Browning in early on and toured him around, and we're standing just out in our observation deck. It was him and myself and Calvin McNeely, our superintendent, and Darren and Gary Browning. And Darren said, so, what do you think? Can we do this? And Gary looked around and looked at us and said, hell yeah, we're absolutely going to do this. We're going to do this. And we found out after the whole restoration, Gary shared with us that he had no idea how he was going to do it, but he saw 3 souls that were completely lost, that just needed some good help. And it showed us, it shows just everybody the power of just the will of a human being, that he filled us with some positivity, and we fought like hell, like after that, to bring these courses back, and Gary was a huge part of that.
Wow. Logistically, your course is flooded. What are some initial steps to start repairing that, to bring it back to a beautiful course like it is now? For
sure. So we got word July 18th of 2014 that we were good to go, that the project was on. So about 13 months after the flood. And we had our team in place and ready to go. We started in August. From August of 2014 till November, we had a really nice long fall that winter. It was all about restoration and just repairing the damage that was done. So there was no longer any standing water. When the flood came through, it cut out these really deep channels throughout the courses we talked about earlier, and so it was backfilling some of those. There was a ton of deposits like these ponds down on Lorette. We're pulling out rock truck full after rock truck full of just all this material, and so it was a matter of kind of robbing from Peter to pay Paul, and moving things around, and stripping back the grass off the greens, and taking that material. There's 12 inches of greens mix that are on all these greens, so we took that and we used and stockpiled that. That was used for all the tee boxes. So we basically took what Mother Nature dealt to us and tried to do this restoration project as efficiently, as environmentally responsible, and as inexpensively as possible, with still, trying to make sure that the project was at the highest level possible. So it was brilliant just to see all the ideas that went around, and the restore, the reparations. You sort of think is there hundreds of people coming out to do this, and it was really about 6 or 7 machines and guys in these machines, and they're artists. And it was really cool to kind of watch what they did, and so that was the first step to getting this all done.
I can remember when the floods happened, because it was Stampede time too, right? So the Stampede,
yeah,
we weren't sure if that was going to go.
Yeah, right.
Everyone was wondering, will Kananaskis open again? And I can just remember for the years to follow that maybe this is the year, and until you guys got the final word that, yeah, we're rebuilding. I know a lot of golfers were on edge, because this is, home to thousands upon thousands of golfers that love it out here.
For sure.
So on behalf of golfers in Calgary, Canada, Alberta, North America, we're beyond thrilled that you guys are back open.
Thanks, Brandon.
After you toured us around the course, you'd have no idea that a disastrous flood came through here. Like, no idea. Without you having to point stuff out to, if it was your first time, you'd have no idea.
Right. No, exactly.
But no, it's beautiful out here.
Thank you.
I hate to keep the conversation on a down.
No.
We're in the middle of a global pandemic with
Sure.
COVID-19. I imagine that's affected the course. We didn't know if courses in general were going to open. You guys have always been home to a lot of international travelers. That it's not uncommon to meet someone from Australia, greeting you when you come in. What has been the operations been like, or how has it changed with this global pandemic?
Well, the business has definitely changed. I would say that really for us, international traffic here isn't a huge part of who we are and what we're about. I would say the Banffs of the world, Banff and Jasper, are probably a little more reliant on international traffic. We're Alberta's golf courses, and we've always been super proud of that. We've always had that Alberta discount. The golf courses were built with Heritage Trust Fund money, which is, essentially means that every Albertan is in theory an owner of this place, and we've always felt that way. And so, the pandemic itself, we didn't open until June 1st this year, but it really had more to do with the long, hard, cold winter that we had. We still had, we were planning on opening May 7th, and we still had, in some spots, where drifted snow, like 6 feet of snow in some areas. So we had a lot of work, and our maintenance team, led by Kyle McNeely, our superintendent, I mean, they nailed it. I mean, the reviews we're getting off the courses have been fantastic in terms of the shapes of the courses. But from a COVID standpoint, of course, we've probably went through 13 or 14 different drafts and iterations of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, from food and beverage, where we are now, to the golf courses, to the golf shop, to our tournament operations. Everything's impacted, and it's had a negative impact for sure in our business, but we've got a ton of people that are coming out, and they're coming out safely. So we've got an outdoor registration area. We've got a different way of staging carts. We sanitize all of our carts after each use. There's no flags, no bunker rakes anywhere on the course. So people are able to just sort of lift in place in the bunkers. There's these pin caddies we have where you just lift basically the hole up with your putter to bring your ball out of the hole. So all these different kinds of things, increased cleaning and sanitization, and just ensuring social distancing. And there's no better place. We have 605 acres out here, so there's no better place to do it. And people feel safe, and I think they feel appreciative of all the things that we're doing and trying to do, and of the government too. They've been brilliant through this whole thing here in Alberta in terms of just allowing golf courses, to do what we need to do, and trusting us. And of course, they're here to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. And the bottom line is that we're providing a safe environment. We're part of the solution. Golf is, I believe, from a mental health standpoint. Man, is that ever a big deal, hey?
Yeah.
In terms of just getting out and being with some friends, and you're not in your home, and whether it's your family coming out or friends, you're reconnecting, and so it's been cool. And man, people are generally 99.999% of people who are here are just ecstatic and elated. It's at a completely different level this year. It's been really neat to see.
Yeah, I bet that COVID has had such a positive impact on the golf community, because for the longest time there was nothing to do but golf.
Right.
And you're exactly right, with so much, crap going on just in general with COVID, that this is such a great escape, and what better escape than to be out here at Kananaskis.
For sure.
You said you've been here 23 years.
Yeah.
Aside from the flood and COVID, what has changed and what's kind of stayed the same?
Well, I think a lot's changed. I think of, like the golf course in itself is different. I mean, part of the restoration was to make it look very similar to what it was before. But I mean, the courses were very punitive, and the game of golf itself was very. I mean, our marshals early on in our history were very autocratic, very. Do this, and I would not say it was customer service oriented. It was results oriented. And I don't think that, while Kananaskis has always been about service, I don't think the game of golf always was like that. It was very, you use the word elitist. I think there's that perception that golf is for, the wealthy, and I think that that's changing a lot. Certainly our facility, has never been that way and never been about that kind of thing. You're seeing more and more. I mean, there was 10 years ago, everybody was putting golf to death. That basically the game's dying. Nobody's playing anymore. Nobody wants to be a part of it. And you've got all these golf courses. And the late '90s there was a Tiger boom where let's build a course a day, and that happened. And now there's been a correction. There was an overcorrection. Too many courses, but I think people are really looking to spend more time together. You see, everybody, adults, kids that are on phones and laptops and iPads and playing electronic games, and that's still prevalent, of course. but people are recognizing, realizing how important it is to get outside, and I think more now than ever. So I think that's a real cool thing. Of course, technology is changing the game. There's some really cool things happening with equipment that's more forgiving and longer, and making it easier for people to pick up the game. So that's I think been a nice change. I think those are probably some of the most important things that are happening. And it's just, I think, and I hope that we're losing that moniker of being just for the elite, because it's just not the case. You're seeing more and more courses welcoming in, juniors where maybe your parents aren't members, but we'd love to have you sponsor juniors, and trying to grow the game that way. And I think the give back to the game of golf is a really cool thing as well. There's no sport in the world like it that's trying to help, communities, the PGA Tour, and just look at the Shaw Charity Classic here. And even though the tournament's not happening, there's still initiatives which we'll be a part of to try to help raise funds for people in our community. And that's a cool thing, and that's something that golf should be a part of, and should be proud of being a part of.
You're so right. Golf is really for everyone. It doesn't matter what your background is, where you come from. If you enjoy being outside, you'll enjoy golfing.
Right.
There's obviously some time that gets put into it if you want to get decent, but it's really so inclusive, and you guys do a fantastic job of catering to every demographic.
Thank you.
When we were out on the course earlier, you briefly mentioned the G8 Summit.
Yeah.
I don't remember what year it was, but can you tell me a little bit about your involvement with that?
Man, it was a surreal time. It was 2002. So it was the first G8 Summit. So the G8 is, for those that don't know, is leaders of the Western world, the free world, or I guess everybody's free now. So we had, like, for example, Spain, Russia, the United States, Canada, Germany, Japan, those types of countries. Their leaders came to Kananaskis. It was the first one after 9/11, so everything was super heightened. There was 8,000 to 10,000 troops that actually came out. So we were closed for 2 weeks in June. And so there were helicopters everywhere. They were dropping in supplies for the troops. And out in our valet area, there were tanks that were there. I mean, just like, now you look at it and you think, man, it was overkill, because it was like literally the safest place on earth. But we had just in our clubhouse area, there was the dinner meeting. So there's pictures in the clubhouse of that, where everybody sat around. They were all hooked up to mics, and the interpreters were downstairs. So because they were talking about world policy, they would speak in their native tongue, so that there was nothing said incorrectly. And then the translator would hear it in, say, Russian, then he would translate it to English, and then those, each interpreter could speak all the languages, and they'd hear it and then translate it back to their leader. Their leader would understand it in their language, and they would speak. And anyway, it was a really, really interesting time, and had a chance to play a little bit of golf. Mr. Kretchen was nice enough he wanted to play. We played only 4 holes, but he came back, and a bunch of our team were there, and I said, Mr. Kretchen, would you mind taking a picture with our team? And he's like, no. He took the time to have a photo with each person individually. There's about 40 of them that were there, and it was just neat to see what they're like off camera, away from the Hollywood. They're just people, and they're really, really, really good people. And
right.
Met Mr. Bush, and it was wicked. It was just such a, of course you saw a ton of him with the whole 9/11 thing, and just to get a chance to meet him, but it was super surreal.
I thought I heard a story about a helicopter landing in your backyard or something. What was the story kind of behind that?
Yeah, well, it's very close to our backyard. The United States had, so Air Force One brought in 2 helicopters that flew Mr. Bush in. There's 2 helicopters and they landed on our driving range. And the reason that they were there was, again, it was close proximity to the hotel where they were staying. They brought 2 just in case anything happened to one of them, so that the president always had a way of traveling. So it was really neat. We got a chance to meet their entire crew. We got a chance. They walked us through different things. You get to look inside the helicopter from a bit of a distance, and you see this one big, massive seat, and then all these little tiny seats. And you'd ask him questions, and you could see there was, I think, butter rum lifesavers that were in there and Diet Coke. So you knew what he was kind of all about. And I'd joke with him, like, did any of you guys, anybody call shotgun and to get the big chair? And he's like, no, sir, no, Mr. Paley. We never, there was no joking about certain things. And there was one portion I remember at the top of the helicopter, and I was like, what's that? And he's like, Mr. Paley, I'm afraid I can't tell you what that is. And I was like, that's cool. Like, I don't even know what that meant, but obviously there's some really cool technology. So yeah, we connected really nicely with all of they were their own troops. They stayed out by the helicopters, they slept by them, had tents by them, and they're just great human beings. It was really cool just a cool experience all around.
That is really cool. The New 9 culture is all about overcoming obstacles,
Sure.
second chances. Crap happens. It's not about what you did, it's what you do. Can you think specifically on the golf course, maybe in your playing days, a New 9 that you might have had out on the course?
Yeah, 100% for sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, I think it took me 3 years to get a card, and there was 2 tournaments each year. So it was my 5th or 6th time going, and started thinking, like, is this going to wind up happening? And we were playing at Woodside, and is where the tournament was, and it was a miserable day. There was, I think, 45 of us that played, and in order to play your second round, you had to be 85 or better, which you'd think was easy. Well, I started the front 9, and I was not doing well. I had one of my good friends, Wayne Kruger, who helped with caddying for me. So I had a great guy in the bag, and I kind of had that aha moment, where I was like, I'm getting in my own way. I'm the reason, if I do well, it's because of me, and if I don't, and I'm getting my way, and I just wanted to get out of my way. So I think I was like 44 or 43, 44 on the front 9, and I just told myself to just enjoy the experience, enjoy the time with Wayne. And so I just had a bit of a reboot, and I wound up shooting 78 in my first round. And at that time, you played both rounds the same day. So we had to go back out, and there was only, I think it was 7 of the 45 or thereabouts that were 85 or better. So it was, like I said, it was a miserable, miserable day. And I shot 72 on my second round.
Wow. So
I was just so relieved, because it was like getting the keys to a brand new car. I was a part of that family, that part of something that I wasn't sure I was going to get a chance to do. And Brandon, it was one of the most special days of my life, because like I said, the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. When you want something so bad, and you can see it and taste it, but you gotta get past that guy, and that guy is not gonna let you get past, and you got to figure out a way of doing it. And I had that moment when I did that, and talk about a powerful message, and something that I talk about in my teaching, and just talk about just even raising our kids, and just to our family that's here.
That is so cool. Yeah, to have a tough front 9 and know that you're so close, and then you really came through. So that's wicked.
For sure.
Can you think of, I don't mean this to be a rhetorical question, you've been through a lot, obviously, just with the course.
Sure.
In life, have you had a New 9 moment, or maybe a couple that you can reference?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly, the flood for one. Like losing my father is my best friend, and so it was a distraction for sure, and gave me something to sink my teeth into, thinking of others, and so certainly that was a reboot moment for sure. And I think just when I was in school would be another one where, again, I wanted to be this phys ed teacher, and it just I wasn't feeling it. I was in these education classes, and sitting on a mower, and at CFB Calgary. I worked at a bar in the evenings, a place called Hurley's in Kensington, and then I worked at CFB Calgary during the day. And I was sitting on a mower, and I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, all these things I'm passionate about, but I don't know how I'm going to get a job at it. I mean, I love bartending, was fun, but that's not a lifestyle. That's not a great way to live. And so just thought, like, my dad's a psychologist, and and I love sports, so maybe sports psychology. So I reached out to a couple of mentors, and they helped me along. And man, without those reboots or that revelation. I remember driving with my dad, ironically, where I was like, I think I want to drop out of education. Like I can't believe I'm saying it, but it doesn't feel right. And so he was an incredible listener, and we drove to Banff. He had a meeting that day, but he made the time for me. So we just drove, and I just talked and I talked and I talked and I talked, and we figured it out together, and he just asked the right questions. And so again, a time in my life where I completely rebooted and just, you're like, okay, so this isn't the road I want to go on. I think this is, and let's see if this is where I go. And things were moving great. Got into grad school, and I found a job at a golf course, and then boom, the playing ability. And then when that got out of my way, then it was like, wow, where do we go from here?
That's awesome. I'm sure there's someone listening that might be, say, working a desk job, and they're not super happy, and they have these dreams of going somewhere else, but they might be too nervous or too scared to even start. What advice would you give that person who, wants to go after their dreams, but they just haven't yet?
It's scary. It's so scary. And I'd say that it sounds so cliche-ish, but if it was easy, everybody would do it. So if it's something that you believe in wholeheartedly, there are those in life that will put up with something that they're not happy doing for work to give them, the ability to do something outside of work. I don't love my job, but it allows me to do these things. And so there's a trade-off to it. And then there's those that they don't have that, and they don't have that job they love. They just really, it's taking that time to shut off all the noise of the world and just go inside and say, what makes me happy? What do I want to do? And really write that down, live that, breathe that. What are your dreams? And, can you, at 52 years old, can I play quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks? No. But, there are some dreams that are out there, and it's just a matter of really having that open conversation and dialogue with yourself, and surround yourself with people that you love, that love you, that you can bounce ideas off of and not fear any sort of judgment or anything like that, and just have good, open, honest conversations and push yourself. And you think that you can do this, well, aim for this and see what happens. You would be shocked at what, I pinch myself every day to think, I've been here for 23 years. And, the flood really gave us that perspective of, don't take for granted anything that you're doing in your life. We don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow. And to try to embrace as much as you can. And so that's what I would say is if you're not happy doing what you're doing, man, such little time here. In the grand scheme of things, we have such little time. Do you want to enjoy your life? And what's going to help you do that? And I think if you're able to really have a good, honest conversation with yourself, maybe you can't put up with the job, and that allows you to do that. Well, that's great. Then you've done that. But don't settle for something where you're miserable, because that just oozes out of you. People don't want to be around those energy vampires or those glass half empty type people. And so I believe that wholeheartedly. It's the kind of person that you want to be, and just be it. Knock those barriers out of the way, and if there are those barriers that won't move, what's the next thing that you can go to, and just keep looking for those things.
Bob, you and the golf course really embody what New Nine is all about. That you guys have had some tough goes, but you've really made the most of it, and you've almost come out a lot stronger had you not faced those implications, objectives, those types of things, right?
For sure.
I really appreciate you coming on the New Nine podcast and shooting some content with us. We couldn't have picked a better day. I'm so grateful that you allowed us the time out of your day for us to come by. Normal circumstances, I'd shake your hand. We'll leave that one out. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate you having us out here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're all grateful that you guys made the time to come out to see us. And yeah, we got fortunate with the weather for sure, but everything happens for a reason. So I wish you luck. I think New Nine is a fantastic concept, and something that I think is going to go a long way. It's going to resonate with a lot of people, because I think that's what life's all about. Not just golf. It's about that fresh start, and that's, I think, in a COVID world right now, man, that's where everything's at, and we're all looking for a bit of a reboot. And man, this is a breath of fresh air what you're doing. So congratulations to you and your team. I think you guys are going to do amazing.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. That wraps us up. Thanks again, Bob.
Cool. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Thank you guys.
Stay tuned. Check out our website, new9golf.com. See what hats are in stock, and do your best to support the golf community. Thanks so much.